currently where it's just your screen up, Sven. Is that what you want?
Yeah, for the agenda.
Okay.
All right, everybody should be filing in.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to, I don't know, my computer wasn't working. I was gonna bring up a slide, but I don't really need a slide.
Okay.
And so I'm on my phone in my car outside of the Museum District Town Hall, where I
Perfect.
will be going next.
Yes. Well, hello, everyone who is joining us for our Second District March meeting. We have some terrific guests here. We're going to wait just 2 minutes as people come in out of the waiting room. But thank you for making time in your evening for this update. And as with all of our meetings, they're recorded so that folks who aren't able to join in can view them later. We will have some Q&A at the end, and you can always reach out to our office with questions, outside of this meeting time if you have additional concerns or feedback. And then I just wanted to let everyone know that because we had to reschedule our meeting, there was a little bit of a double up. Mariah White and I have the Fox Community standing Thursday 7 o'clock meeting to hop over to at 7. But we hope to get through as much of this agenda before then. But Sven is available to stay on, and we are going to have the ranked choice voting and redistricting conversation at the end. He is incredibly well versed in that and can stay past 7. But again, thank you to everyone who's joining. We are going to start in 1 minute. Our agenda is up for those of you calling in if you can't see it. We're going to start with a Diamond District process update from Maritza, and then we will go to our Chief Administrative Officer, Lincoln Saunders, for an update on the mayor's budget. Mariah White, our Second District School Board Representative, will be joining us to give an RPS update, followed by a public safety update, and then we'll go into some other general citywide topics of the Civilian Review Board, redistricting, and ranked choice voting. So it is 6:02. We are recording. If you have questions as the meeting unfolds, you can put them in the chat. You can send them directly to Sven. If you're not comfortable asking, you can also ask us later outside the meeting. We can follow up afterwards. But I think let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We're glad that the sun is out. We're incredibly glad that a tornado did not touch down. That was excitement that I don't think anyone needs. And I'm going to turn it over to Maritza Peachin, who is leading up the city's process for the Diamond redevelopment project, to give us an update. And she is squeezing us in before another community meeting. So we appreciate you making time tonight, Maritza. Where are we right now in the process for those who maybe are not following it as closely as your office?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Maritza Mercado Peachin. I am the Director of Equitable Development for the City of Richmond. And one of the main projects that I'm overseeing is the Diamond District redevelopment. And as you all may recall, that was included, the goal and kind of vision for the Diamond District area was included as part of the Richmond 300 master plan that was adopted in December of 2022. And then in July of 2021, we rezoned the properties, the city property, and then also properties nearby to align with the vision for the plan. And in October, we began marketing the opportunity to developers to partner with the city to achieve the goals we outlined in the plan. So that was October of last year. One of the next steps in the master plan was to start doing a solicitation for the public-private redevelopment of the 67 acres that is owned by the city and BCU over around the Diamond. So we began that process in October with marketing, and then at the end of December, we issued the request for information that went out December 28th. The solicitation closed February 15th. And the solicitation closed February 15th, and we were so incredibly lucky to receive 15 submissions, which was more than we expected. We expected 5 to 8 or so. We always knew it was a wonderful site on the Eastern Seaboard, And it clearly is. Developers also agree with us. And so I think it was last week or so, I don't know, 10 days ago or so, we issued March 23rd, we winnowed it down to 6. And so we said, we want to find out more information from you 6. So 9 are out of the running and 6 have been issued a request for additional information that is due April 25th. After which the evaluation panel will review the submissions against the goals and criteria that we set forth in the request for information. We plan on announcing some finalists in May, and then bringing a deal, a team and a structure and everything to council for approval in June. So that is our timeline for the project. This is all, I gave a lot of dates. This is all outlined in that request for additional information document that's available on the website that I think Sven put in the chat. And while I will try to answer questions as best to my ability that you may have, you have to understand that we are in the middle of a competitive process. And so I may not be able to answer things completely clearly, because I never know who is listening to calls, who's going to watch this recording, and I don't want to give any teams an unfair advantage.
Absolutely. And I think that that's good to underscore. We really want to get the best deal here for the city. And I know everyone is really eager to see who's making up each of these teams, what was in their proposals, but that is all information we're keeping within the selection committee right now. Maritza, at what point do you think there'll be a more public community meeting where we talk about the finalists, or do another larger meeting? Because I know we've had a ton. The great thing is with this project, we've had so much public outreach between Boulevard, visioning, small area plan for Scott's Addition, Richmond 300 master plan, but people really love to engage with the city process as we select, our finalists. And, obviously what we've heard is that some of these teams are going out into the community to sort of make their case. But what should the neighbors in the city expect for when they'll know a little bit more and be able to have a more up close view of the process than what's on the website?
So on our website, there's a form, and at any point you can enter a question or comment, and I am reviewing those and I'll bring them to the evaluation panel. I've already done that actually. And I think it's the week of May 23rd. I might be getting the date completely not exactly correct. We will have a meeting that will include more information about the finalists. So not the 6, but because we're going to get shorter than 6. And we're going to have a shorter list than the 6. And so, and that will be publicly advertised. We'll probably do it in person and hybrid and virtual. And so that is a time where you'll learn more. But because it's a competitive process, there's certain financial details and certain things that we won't really be revealing until we get to the end with our preferred team, because we want to make sure, we want to be able to use some of that information in our negotiation process. So some things we'll be able to share, and some things we won't be able to share. And that's just the nature of trying to compete with different people, trying to get the best deal for the city of Richmond. As folks reach out to you, certainly you can talk to whoever you want. I'm not going to tell you not to talk to someone. Just remember that we're trying to make this as competitive as possible, and get the best deal for the city of Richmond. So just kind of keep that in mind. The evaluation panel, I'm not on the evaluation panel. I'm facilitating the group. The evaluation panel has a very wide range of people who have experience in different sides of that will impact this project. So Office of Community Wealth Building, who's thinking about workforce development and minority business development, Councilwoman Roberts, and Councilwoman Jordan, Councilwoman Lambert, so Lincoln Saunders, and Jim Duval, who's in charge of the city. He's our debt manager. So we have lots of people who have a lot of experience in their different fields, and they're going to be reviewing and combing through all of the information to get the best deal for the city of Richmond.
Got it. Well, I appreciate that advice I know we have several community leaders on this meeting, and certainly, we're here to help also answer questions if you do get outreach. Do we have any questions right now that folks would like to ask? Knowing that we will have, larger meetings just around this topic later, but we want to make sure people understood where we were at this stage in the process. And you can raise your hand or put a question in the chat. And then this is also, please, everyone. So for some of our other processes, there were huge email campaigns out to different members of the selection committee and to council members. And we try and learn through every project that the city takes on. Please direct all of that outreach to this question comment form. That way we know we're not missing any feedback. We're not triple counting any feedback. It's all consolidated in one place. That's also really important because this is not the only thing we're working on. We have budget season right now. You may be reaching out to our office about a DPU issue. We can't see the day-to-day emails that we need to see if we are drowning in specific issue emails. So please do focus all of your outreach to that, and it will be shared with the entire selection committee. Thank you. Does anyone have a specific question for Maritza about the Diamond District?
I'm not seeing any in the chat at this time, but again, if you would like to ask it yourself, you can also raise your hand and we will unmute you, or you can indicate that in the chat as well.
Right. Well, look forward to continuing to work on this deal and giving you guys updates as we move ahead, given that this is in the 2nd district. So thank you, everyone. And now I'm going to go to the museum district meeting.
Yes, say hi
everybody.
to our friends in the museum district. Oh, we did have one question. If you have a minute, can you talk a little bit about housing in the Diamond District and what we're seeing come in and what the city is expecting?
Can you talk a bit about housing is planned in this, how it's planned in this? I mean, I would say one of the goals is to have housing units, and then we have, we would like mixed income housing units included. And then in our latest, in the request for additional information, we added kind of a goal of reaching 5% of the rental units to be relocation units for Gilpin residents as Gilpin gets redeveloped. So, and that could potentially, so we'll see what developers come back with.
Got it. Thank you so much. All right. Well, again, thank you for stopping by, and looks like we're right on schedule here, even a little bit early. We're going to hand it over now to our Chief Administrative Officer, Lincoln Saunders, for an update on the mayor's budget. So this is what City Council is really focused on right now, understanding the priorities that have been outlaid in the mayor's budget, and then sort of comparing that to what we're hearing from you guys in our different districts, and then our mutual priorities, and trying to get to a consensus point. So lots of good material. Mr. Saunders, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilman Jordan. I appreciate it very much, and appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk a little bit about the most significant items in the mayor's proposed budget. As many of you know, the mayor introduced it, I believe, on March 6th to City Council. Again, I'm just going to try and start with the kind of some of the themes, but also the major investments that you'll see in this budget. When we presented this budget to City Council a few weeks ago, we started with kind of a framing around remembering essentially where we were just a couple of years ago. 2 years ago, just days after the mayor introduced his budget, we entered our first COVID lockdown. And in the days that followed, we had to slash roughly $40 million out of the introduced budget, collaborating with City Council and their staff to identify where we could make the cuts to bring our budget in line with the more conservative and restricted revenue projections that we expected during COVID. The Certainly, our lives changed in many ways. Restaurants shut down. We stopped having open library hours. City services had to adjust and adapt in any number of ways to meet the needs of the community, but also to maintain the health and safety of our employees. We're very proud of the fact that at the time we never either furloughed or laid off city employees, but in many ways, many other areas had to be, or priorities had to be either deferred or set to the side for the foreseeable future. So while, as we fast forward to this year, we are seeing the return of some of those revenues, but I would just comment and/or caution that what we're really seeing now is just getting back to where we were in our projections pre-COVID. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the investments that we are making with our revenues, but just for the light and the comparison, the city is itself still in recovery mode. We're glad to start seeing some of our admission, lodging, and meals taxes return to previous levels, but we're not quite there yet. So we'll take it from there. Of the investments made in this budget, the single most significant and largest total investment is our investment in the new public safety pay plan. The pay plan has an average increase of 18.3% for our police officers and firefighters. It's a very significant increase. The total cost of implementing the plan is over $17.4 million. Again, we have roughly 1,000 sworn personnel in our police and fire departments, and we are bringing many of those positions up to competitiveness, not just within a region, but across Virginia. Our starting pay for officers is rising to almost $52,000 a year. Again, that's starting pay. That matches the introduced starting pay of our neighbor Henrico County, which was, we believe at that time, either the highest or one of the absolute highest starting pays in the Commonwealth. Clearly, it's important that as a city, we stay both competitive and keep up with our competitors in pay for our critical personnel, particularly those in our areas of public safety. So these investments will take us a long way towards doing so. In addition to the roughly $17.4 million of investment to the police and fire pay plan, we have also set in the budget a reserve of roughly $15 million for school funding, as far as an enhancement to raise our total funding for schools from the roughly $185 million last year to over $200 million this year. We are still waiting for the details of schools budget as far as what categories those investments will go into, be it transportation, personnel, or operations. We did not receive that in time for the mayor's introduced budget, but we are hopeful that council will have it in time to move that $15 million from the reserve category into the specific operating categories within RPS's budget. In addition to that, we have roughly $240 million in various transportation projects that are funded through a mix of both federal and state funding, but also local funding and our regional dollars from the Central Virginia Transportation Authority. We have significant investments in what we are calling complete streets, which includes improvements both to that will take place through paving as well as sidewalk repairs, as well as implementing more combined multimodal investments where we go in and address both sidewalks, bike lanes, and repavings as part of an improvement project. We're also doing some things to make sure we have some additional community sports that we know we will need as we continue to come out of COVID. We have increased the eviction diversion fund by 50% in the mayor's introduced budget, and included an additional $1.5 million to our Parks and Rec department for enhanced after-school programming, as our understanding that RPS will move away from the extended day programs, and we expect that our Parks Department And our after-school partners will need to be able to meet some of the need coming from individuals who or students who need after-school care, parents who need after-school care for their kids in the coming school year. Councilwoman, there's many additional areas we could go into and talk about. We have funds as well for improving city fleet, where we're mostly investing that into fire apparatus as well as police vehicles and a couple of solid waste trucks. Facilities and capital maintenance is another area. We have quite a large amount of deferred maintenance on city buildings that has simply not been addressed in past years as times have been tight. We need to make improvements there. As a city, we're also making significant improvements in both from the fiscal management side of things, putting more cash funding into our capital program, as well as into some contingency reserves, just to acknowledge the fact that we fully expect there's going to be, just given the uncertainty with the economy and gas prices, there's going to be rising costs in some of our operations and contracts that we're going to need to be able to adjust for during the year. So rather than pre-program all the revenues, we've put several million into various contingencies to address rising gas prices and other needs. I think I've touched on most of the high level items, but Councilman will be glad to answer any questions or speak to any other salient points you think I've missed from the introduced budget.
No, thank you. That was really helpful. And Sven did put the link to the city's budget website, and you can see the full documents that council has. So it goes through every department. I do think it'd be helpful to have on that website the presentations that your office gave to council, because it's a little bit more condensed and easy to follow. And
Certainly.
then I thought Davenport's presentation was also incredibly helpful, talking about into the future and the types of revenues we're going to need to continue to fund, the progress that, we've been investing in. So are there any questions in the chat, Sven, or topics people want a little bit more information on before we?
Yeah. So Julie asks, can you please explain the difference between economic empowerment and economic justice that are your priorities reflected in the budget?
Well, that's a big question and a lot probably to unpack from that. I will say that, a lot of our efforts, if you look at the mayor's equity agenda, there are certainly areas of economic justice, but economic empowerment is certainly a priority, from supporting small businesses through, and particularly our small minority businesses through enhanced supports and training is a big part of what we've dedicated through our ARPA funding. Again, helping businesses not just recover from COVID, but actually come out stronger with additional supports and investments in them. Also looking at, the work of the community, our Office of Community Wealth Building. That's an area where we are also directing additional resources to in this budget. We, for the last 5 years, have benefited from a state grant of TANF funds to support barrier navigation, helping families work through the system to get access to workforce training, benefit navigation, et cetera. So over the last 5 years, we've had the benefit of a roughly $2 million a year grant. We were able in this introduced budget to be able to maintain that work using city dollars now that grant program has ended. Again, there's probably a lot more that we can speak to that regard, but supporting our Office of Minority Business Development, our Office of Community Wealth Building, and generally speaking, looking at ways through particularly our economic development projects where we can ensure that minority participation, but as well as not just with participation, but actual ownership in projects can be a priority in everything that we do. We've been able to do that successfully in some recent projects, and it's a goal for us going forward.
Great, thank you.
That is the only question that I have seen reflected in the chat. Oh, Shannon has a question. As an RPS parent, I'm deeply concerned about the dysfunction with the school board. Not all members of the board are included in decision-making. I understand that because the school board is not willing to work with the mayor's office, and Cleo is also upset with the school board, and use resources of the city, that George and Fox may have significant delays. Can you speak to that?
Gosh, that is a really important question, and I'd be glad to speak to it. I'm probably not the best person to speak to the dynamics amongst the school board members, but I appreciate the question. And I think as an outside observer, it's certainly something that we have heard. We heard from certain school board members at the council meeting on Monday. They're concerned about decisions being made not fully inclusively of the full board. But I will use this opportunity to say that it is the mayor's sincere hope, and our team is fully ready to assist and support this, but it is the mayor's hope that we could actually collaborate around the building of both George Wythe and Fox. To put it as simply as I can, working together, we could rebuild Fox and deliver a new George Wythe High School in the years 2024 and 2025. It's our understanding of the process that schools is pursuing for, that the school board is pursuing for school construction, that at the earliest they could deliver it working independently would be calendar years 26 and 27. I think 2 years is a lifetime in the development of a child, and the sooner that we can get our students into 21st century learning environments, it is just simply it's unacceptable to wait longer than we have to. There's always resource issues. There's always there are procurement processes, et cetera, that all have to be met and followed. So it's never something you can do overnight. But if you have the ability to do it 2 years faster by collaborating, I have no earthly understanding why we wouldn't do that. I think that there's been misinformation about the last set of schools constructed in the city, perceptions that the city didn't get the best deal with that construction, and to be honest, I think that was a manipulation of data. And when you look at the State Board of Education data for the last rounds of schools delivered, the city delivered schools that was absolutely in line with any other locality in Virginia. And we did it in challenging environments, specifically building, it's one thing to build a large school on an open green field. It's another to build it around an existing and operating school like we did at Green and which is now Cardinal Elementary School, and particularly George Mason in the heart of Churchill. Those site conditions matter as far as costs. And we built 3 beautiful school buildings that are serving those students well. And I think it would be a disservice to build, a George Wythe years later than we could, and particularly smaller than is needed to serve all the students. I don't know how you decide which 400 students don't get to attend the new high quality high school. I don't know. I could go on for a while, Shannon, and I appreciate the question.
Lincoln, I think our dogs are trying to talk to one another.
I really did think that.
I will say, Shannon, that we also are hoping to have Ms. White on joining us in the next couple of minutes as well to hopefully address some of those questions more directly from her perspective, if you'd like.
Yeah, and I've also asked, so I'm on the Education and Human Services Committee, and we're going to get the auditor to come. The city council has its own auditor, and they did a school and capital improvement budget audit, which, all the information's out there. Everyone wants to be as efficient with their tax dollars as possible. And there are definitely lessons learned that we can apply must apply going forward. But the characterization that we wasted $30 million just is not there. And I've spent hours talking to our city auditor. So there's always so much information. It's really hard to keep up with everything in the city, but I'm hoping that people who are following this conversation will tune into that meeting. I'll let everyone know when it is scheduled. You can also look at the JLARC study. That is like a statewide, study of all the construction spending. 2 of the 3 schools were lower cost per student than the state average. So Sven, if you don't mind dropping the JLARC article in there. And then we do have other guests and other topics to get to. Unfortunately, I know the schools topic obviously is one people are passionate about, and that's good. But it's not meant to be the focus of this entire meeting tonight. So we're happy to follow up with people outside this meeting. And again, we want people to attend that Education Human Services meeting. We had a question about the museum that's going to be going to Shockoe Bottom and the schedule for that. And
Certainly.
then after that, if any positive updates or motion on our permitting woes. That falls into the budget.
I would be glad to answer both of those. So on the, the good news on the Shockoe Bottom Memorial Campus, which is inclusive of both the larger park as well as the National Slavery Museum that is envisioned. It is a large project. The good news is that the city has in our capital budget $28 million for the completion of the larger campus footprint and park. What does still need to happen though is for the combination of the National Slavery Museum Foundation as well as other partners to come together to raise the dollars for what is currently looking to be based on the current design, a $300 to $350 million museum before you even take into account operations. And so it's a big project, and it's something that, whereas I know the mayor believes strongly that the city is responsible for and can be responsible for the larger campus and making sure that we have a true site of reflection and an important place to acknowledge what happened there. We do need to, can work with our partners to find additional resources to support the museum because it is a big ask, a big lift to bring that to fruition. And so I am hopeful and expect we actually, honestly, we are moving forward with I believe both the RFP for the design for the campus using our capital dollars, as well as working with the Slavery Foundation, the National Slavery Museum Foundation, and the Smith Group, who has been involved in the museum design on further excavation of the site so that we can get a better sense. That's both of those are moving forward this summer. And so we're very diligently and have our eyes on the goal here over the next several months and years to get this completed. And then speaking to our permitting department, Jerome, appreciate the question. I will say that there has been a myriad of challenges facing the department that are both personnel and tech basis. I think one of the departments hit hardest by essentially the change in the labor market and early retirements, et cetera, was our permitting department. And we, at one point a few months ago, we were down to 2 or 3 permit techs that are responsible for review. We are back up to, we're actually up above our historical staffing levels. We have, I believe, our 10th person who has started in that division. We have some great new leadership in both David Alley, the new building commissioner, and our planning director, Kevin Bonk. The piece of the puzzle that still needs to be worked through is, quite frankly, I think we need to make some significant changes to the software. Energov as a system has just not quite kept up with our needs and growth as a city, and we're looking and kind of have an all hands on deck approach to getting that software either fixed or replaced if needed in short order. So I can tell you that over the last few weeks, we've actually cut the backlog in half within the permitting department. I know that's only halfway to where we need to be, but I'm very proud of the team for the diligent work to get there. I have 2 meetings a week on our permitting department, and it's something it's in the top 2 or 3 priorities of where we both are investing, as well as just focusing a whole city approach to problem solving.
Great, I appreciate that. Any other budget related questions while we are on this agenda item?
I think I saw one additional question regarding plans for the roundabouts on Monument Avenue and whether there's anything included within this upcoming budget.
Sven, can you repeat the question regarding?
Sure. Julie asks, and I think kind of under the umbrella of Complete Streets, what is the current plan for monument circles on Monument Avenue?
I think, we are continuing to finish and, I mean, I think that what you've seen at Arthur Ashe Boulevard and Monument Avenue with the, the full removal to grade and repaving is what we're doing in those spaces. I can't recall necessarily the specifics regarding what, if any, additional steps are being taken with the pads from the former Jefferson Davis statue, or I do hope that we're able to move forward quickly with the same sort of, bringing to grade at, I guess it would be the former Jeb Stewart site. So that's kind of the main focus at this time. Maritza would share that, it is still the city's goal that sometime into the future, not necessarily this year, but in next year or the year after, we would engage in a public process about the future of Monument Avenue and what sort of reimagining would take place. But to be blunt, I think we all need a cooling off period and a refocus. And this would be something I think will be more productive when we come back to it in the future.
Great, thank you.
Thanks again. And then I think we did have a question about RPD staffing levels, which I think you touched on a little bit earlier, and we will have Captain Flippo joining us in a little bit as well. But in case Mr. Wilmore wasn't able to catch that portion of your budget summary, can you touch quickly on the staffing levels of RPD?
Well, clearly, I think one of the motivations behind putting in what is, one of the most competitive pay plans in the state is to be able to get RPD staffing levels back to where we need it to be. We have certainly seen retirements and attrition, and some of the same sort of dynamics you've seen around the country with individuals leaving the law enforcement profession. At the same time, we know we need to kind of rebuild our ranks. The pay plan is a way to get there. And I know from talking with many of the majors and leadership within RPD, they're optimistic about our ability both to enhance our recruitment as well as bring back individuals who've left for higher paying jobs in our surrounding counties. That's part of why, it's so critical to be competitive. So I'm hopeful that we'll be successful in doing so. And we'll be able to get back up. I can't speak to the specifics, and I would say I would certainly defer to Captain Flippo about any specifics regarding stops. I do know that the issue with drag racing and motorcycle stunts is, again, it's a national problem, and we're following. And I know the chief has talked with chiefs in cities across the country who are seeing the same issues and talking through how we're dealing with it. One of the more creative things that is being done, and I think it's important, is getting the license plates for the individuals and actually turning them into their insurance. Was by doing so, you can actually deter, if they lose their insurance or their premiums go way up, that is a deterrent that is probably safer for the officers than entering into a high-speed chase or having any more incidents like we saw on Broad Street a few weeks ago with an officer who was hit trying to, to intervene with someone driving recklessly on Broad. So we're finding all sort of creative ways. I do think as part of our ARPA investments and other commitments, we need to invest in more cameras. I want to see more stoplight cameras, or actually implement stoplight cameras in the city, have speed cameras in the areas where state authorizes us to do so, such as school and work zones. There is hopefully a lot we can do to deter this kind of reckless behavior with some of these additional interventions.
Excellent. Well, CEO Saunders, we really appreciate you coming by to talk about the budget. And, obviously there's a lot more budget work left to do. I hope everyone on this call will continue to follow it and let us know your priorities so that we can help represent that as the budget process continues. But I also know that we have personal lives, and I think I saw a mini dash through the back of your
Yeah,
screen. So please,
it's about dinner time. So
it's about dinner time. So thank you for joining us. We are going to move on to our other agenda topics. So thank you for being here with us tonight.
thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Good night. Thank you. All right. So we also have our school board member, Mariah White, and we have some of our public safety officers here. Thank you so much, both of you. Mariah, I think we were just talking about public safety. So if you don't mind, we're just going to stay on that topic for another, I would say 5-10 minutes, and then we will go to the school board update. But Captain Flippo, thank you for joining us this evening. Can you talk to the situation that's been reported about a cyclist being stopped and ticketed when I think, anecdotally, I know we hear a lot still about dangerous motorists not being ticketed to the extent that I think everyone would like, because we want our streets to be safe for everybody. But if you could talk to that specific incident and then give us just a general update on how things are going in the district. Thank you.
So I'm not sure what incident you're talking about, Catherine.
So it was reported that a cyclist on Floyd was pulled over, and I think it was for maybe not having a light on and maybe rolling through an intersection. I saw it on social media, and there was a question in the chat specifically about it.
So I'll have to do a little bit of research on that. I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that being an issue or question. And nothing comes to mind right now it was just a bicyclist a motorcyclist?
No, so it was a cyclist got pulled over on Floyd Tuesday night. At the
Okay.
same time that there were motorcycles doing stunts on Broad Street, which, obviously I think is more concerning to everybody.
Sure,
So just,
sure.
how are we prioritizing enforcement?
So I think Lincoln may have touched some on that too. We do our best with trying to enforce those type of laws. However, you got to understand what predicament that puts us in, and the danger of everyone, of our community, of even the person that maybe is breaking the law at that time. So we've got to make sure that we recognize the consequences of attempting that traffic stop. So motorcycles have been an issue in our city for a good while. I can tell you, I can remember 10, 15 years ago when we used to have the gas stations at Belvedere and Broad, and we would have issues there. So those are things that we do. We've come up with creative ways to enforce. We try to make sure we have an air unit handy to keep eyes on the individuals and try to engage in a traffic stop in a safe way. However, we also do not want to have a pursuit occurring and then putting our citizens at danger. So it's very touchy situation for us. And, pursuits in general can be very dangerous. And I do recognize that the individuals riding the motorcycle are dangerous. But as you can see with the incident that happened a few months ago with one of our sergeants, and he got injured, originally that started with an officer had a bunch of motorcyclists around her. And then that's when this chase up and down Broad Street occurred. So I think the arrest that we made helped deter a lot of future incidents. But I think as the weather becomes warmer, we have to just continue to work on ways to focus on combating those situations. We've had a plan last year in place, and we continue with that plan this year. And we got to address the issues, but it's all depending on our staffing and what resources we have, the time of day, the people that are out. If we have a bunch of people out in a park and we know the pursuit's heading that way, then that means, unfortunately, we're going to have to disengage that pursuit and ensure that public safety isn't at risk. So that's kind of where we stand with pursuits in general, but also with motorcyclists.
Thank you. Sent just dropped in the chat where folks can look at the crime data. and looks like enforcement data, because someone asked a detailed question about how many tickets are being issued for cyclists in the last month. Is that the type of thing that y'all track, or, I mean, or that's visible to the public?
I don't know if specifically we have that. I'm sure that could be like a FOIA request. I don't think that's not an immediate stat number. Like when I run my statistics, it's not going to be something that comes up exactly on motorcyclists. So I see someone said bicyclists. So those are who are
Yes.
on bicycles. Again, I don't know. It would have to be more of like a FOIA request, and then someone can do the research and looking through the reporting system. I can tell you, I don't know many, just offhand, I don't believe there's too many people on bicycles that will receive citations. It depends. It depends. I don't think that's been our main focus of enforcement.
Okay, I tell you what, for those that are issued in that specific incident, if you can give your email address to Sven, and we'll just follow up on that, because it is more of a one-off than something I think we've been hearing a lot about, such as
Yeah.
the loud motorcyclists and drag racing, et cetera.
And just to be clear, the incident on Tuesday that we're talking about was somebody on a motorcycle, and then there was other motorcycles around,
No, it's a cyclist.
like a bicycle.
Yes, yes, a bicyclist was given a ticket. Meanwhile, there were a bunch of motorcycles drag racing on Broad Street, is what's been reported.
On Tuesday, that was happening too. There's there's motorcycles on Broad Street at the same time cyclist was cited.
That's what is being reported, but if we can circle back to you on that, get some clarity, then we'll pass it on to the folks who are asking this question, because we do have Mariah White on right now, and we've gotten a little bit out of order, and I apologize to everyone, but this has been a day, it's been a day where after school care wasn't necessarily available, that, school pickups were totally out of whack because of the tornado. And I know, Ms. White, you and I like to be on time for that Fox community meeting to support our families. Captain Flippo, do you mind just waiting a moment so that our RPS representative can give a quick update from school board?
Do you need any, what information? Because I don't know if I have that much more to discuss, except,
Okay,
2 more minutes, except, our main issues is make sure your cars are locked. We're still having theft from motor vehicles from unlocked cars. We had another firearm taken from an unlocked vehicle. We did have one commercial burglary that we made an arrest on that was exceptionally cleared. And then if you get packages delivered on your front porch, please find a safe way to secure them. So if they can't get delivered when you're there, then maybe have a lockbox or something in your facility or outside of your home that someone can deliver that, because ultimately those are the issues that we're having in your area, and a lot of them can be prevented. So please, if you have any more questions about how to you better do that, call us, give me a call. You have my email, so please reach out and I will be glad to help out with that.
And I'll drop that contact in the chat. And I did just want to recognize Councilwoman as well, that we have Lieutenant Picard with 4th Precinct as well on with us this evening, and really appreciate you all giving us your time.
absolutely. Captain Picard, did you have any updates from the 4th Precinct to add to Captain Flippo's comments?
Yeah, no, let me turn my sound. Sorry about that. Okay, 1 second, I'm sorry about that. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. I did catch the end of Captain Flippo's presentation. So in your area for 4th Precinct, kind of the theme that some of the crime issues that we're experiencing have been commercial burglaries and motor vehicle thefts. Now our focus mission team has made 2 significant arrests to kind of curb the issue with commercial burglaries, and that really drove up property crimes in the 2nd district for 4th Precinct. I know just looking at our commercials, we were 0 this time last year, and we went up to 4. Arrest has been made on those. Motor vehicle thefts went from 2 to 8, looking at the same time last year. And the biggest issue that we're having with motor vehicle thefts are people stopping in at restaurants, leaving their car running, thinking there's going to be a few minutes. In the meantime, someone jumps in the car and takes off with it. Another issue that we've seen come up is that, if there's two cars, in a particular household, that are tied, maybe husband, wife, they leave a spare key in each other's car. So one car is broken into. In the meantime, the suspect locates a key in a car he's broken into, and with a key fob, and then he just steals the car that key is attached to. So we've had some of those issues as well. We've also had issues, I know, in 411, where someone breaks in a car thinking they're going to steal change or whatever, and they just find a spare key to that particular car and they end up stealing it. It's really just kind of a crime of opportunity. And I don't know if this has been mentioned in the past, but I'll certainly mention it today that, when we have motor vehicles that are stolen, a lot of times we find out that one, they're involved in vehicle pursuits, or two, they're being stolen for the suspect to commit a crime elsewhere, either a shooting or something to that effect. And nonetheless, we've gone up significantly in the motor vehicle thefts. I know I've seen some motor vehicle thefts stolen right outside the Chipotle and like the Panera down on West Gray Street. So just want to really just encourage everyone just to make sure, one, you're not keeping spare keys like in your spouse's car, or significant other. You're not keeping a spare key in your car, or anything wheel well or anything to that effect. And please keep your car locked, just to really kind of, so we can decrease our motor vehicle thefts. Commercial B&Es, that's a completely different story there. Of course, we always rely on anybody who owns a commercial property to have video surveillance, have an alarm system. A lot of the issues we have when we respond to alarms is that the alarm company doesn't have good contact information for the renter or the property owner. So a lot of times we're having to go back to the precinct, do research to find out if anyone has filed a previous report at that particular property, and then try to get in contact with the owner. Especially a commercial property that there's large fencing around the back. We can't always get inside the buildings just to, clear it and search it just to see if it's actually been broken into, or, if the alarm system's just faulty. So that's really kind of the theme in your area for 4th Precinct, or really those two property issues, that we're experiencing. So if you're getting food, park it, lock it, shop, and then come back and repeat, and unlock your car and drive away. Do not leave your car sitting out. I know with the colder weather too, people will, park their car, or they get up in the morning and they leave their car running and so forth, and they walk inside thinking it'll be okay. Your car can be driven without the key fob in most cases. Those are kind of the issues in 4th Precinct and second district.
Well, thank you so much. And I know there's a question about, Jerome, we're going to circle back to your question, because I really do want to get to Mariah before the Fox District meeting starts. Thank you so much. Mariah, are you still on?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm still on. I'm sorry I'm a little late because I'm still working due to the tornado. And I do know I have a 7 o'clock meeting, but I do want to give you the update. First Baptist was a success the very first week. And I would like to thank some people that helped.
Oh, you got muted somehow, Mariah.
Let me start back over. I'd like to thank some people who actually provided breakfast for the teachers at First Baptist the first week. It was a success. On that Monday, I did provide breakfast. Tuesday, Councilwoman Catherine Jordan, we thank you for that. On Wednesday, the Fan Association, we thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Bean, for coordinating that. Thursday, the Fox PTA Association. Thank you, Ms. Ricard, for doing all the coordination for that. And Friday, CASA, which is Carver Association. And we thank you, Mr. Jerome Lengens, for also providing those breakfast meals through the whole week. So it was a great week, and I enjoy standing out there in the morning and actually greeting the children. So breakfast, the teachers really enjoyed it. I also like to thank First Baptist. We had some helpers, I call them my angels. There was Wendy, a member there, Amanda, and Allison. Amanda is the director during the day. Allison pretty much runs the whole First Baptist, and they did a snack bar for the teachers. I mean, a very large one, which they replenish everything. Anything that you wanted for a snack was down there. And I greatly appreciate them for that. Good news today that RPS has submitted all the necessary paperwork to the city for the Fox to start the stabilization permits. So that was good news to hear today. Also, I received some pictures of Clock Springs. They are really working over there. I just asked, could I get a tour of the building? So they're going to actually set that up so I can go in and see what improvements have been made since last month. The hot issues that we are actually at the school board that we are working on, that we'll be working on for the next probably 2 months. Our next meeting is April 11th at Huguenot High School. In April, it will be 2 meetings. One is on April 11th, one is on April the 25th. And both of them will be in person at Huguenot High School over the south side. But our topics that we'll be really pretty much hashing out, speaking about would be the food service contract, George Wilf, Virtual Academy, the budget. We know that we will have to cut some in the budget because we know that it's based on contingency of the General Assembly. So we kind of know that it'd probably be between 6 to 10 million. I don't want to exclude anything. I'm trying to make sure that I cover everything. Carver Elementary, they are working hard. Most of their students, we had a little issue with attendance, but we're back on track with that. Richmond Alternative School, they are doing well also. They are really working on Mr. Trotter, who's the principal, 100-year anniversary. So if you ever went to Grace, Armstrong, or any of those schools, or even the Spreading Academy, he would like to speak with you. He have pictures, he wants pictures for this big event. He's now setting up and having meetings with different individuals. So if you're interested in that, that should be later on this year. So any support that you can give for any of the schools, we would appreciate it. So if I have any questions or anyone have any questions, I don't have on my chat right now because I was rushing back to 2 computers. Is there anything, Catherine?
Thanks, Ms. White. The first question that we got in the chat had to do with whether there was still help needed for meals for, and I believe that that was in reference to Fox.
Oh, the meals was just something, no, but if you would like to, I can check on if you want to help. If you would like to bring something, I'm sure the teachers would appreciate you. They really was spoiled. They was like, well, what is next week? But we was just trying to make them feel very comfortable and smooth transition into their rooms. So I can check if you would like me to check, and I'm sure they would appreciate that.
Okay, great, thank you. And then Jennifer asks a question regarding collaboration with the city on the rebuild and renovation of George Wythe.
Okay.
And the merits of compromising between the school board and city council. I don't know if you're able to take a look at that one.
Okay, I'm looking now. Okay, hold on.
And I know you said that that was going to be a topic of conversation, correct, at the April 11th meeting as well?
Yes, but I just want to see what Jen.
And Jennifer, if you'd like, I can also unmute you if you'd like to ask.
Yes, can you do that, please? I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. One moment.
Oh, okay, I have it. Yes, speaking of your question, Jennifer, as far as 2 years ahead, I'm not sure where the 2 years came from because we haven't started. The RFP has been, we're just waiting for the money so that we can start. Mr. Cameron has provided the team. We did the RFP. We're just waiting for the money so that we can start. That's all. Then we will know the actual date. I don't want to give an approximate 2 years ahead or 3 years delay because I can't say that because nothing has started yet. So
My understanding is that there's still an argument between the proposed size of the school.
That's the argument. Well, to me, that's not an argument because the board has already said 1,600. Compromised at 1,600, did the RFP for 1,600. I'm going to talk for myself. I'm not going to talk about for any of the other board members. During the city council meeting, I asked for the supporting documentation that they had. She said that we had it, and then I did ask, and then she said, well, you can get it. I do have the supporting documentation from Cropper, but I wanted to see what they were actually looking at as city council. Now I'm seeing that I heard on the news, I haven't seen, they said the plan, but I haven't seen it. And that to me, the plan doesn't state that because you're going to have growth over the south side, that there will be children. Just like you can't tell me because you're going to have a casino that there's going to be more families. Because you're doing more of affordable housing, there's going to be more children. Because affordable doesn't mean affordable to everyone, especially in that particular area. So I need to see the numbers to correspond with the Cropper data that I have. And I do know the data that is now in the school, which is 1,288, 1,288. It doesn't seem to get over that. It's like I have said before, we're working on the outside of the school. Also, we have to work on the inside of the school to bring more students into the school. Years after years, there have been parents who would not even allow their children to attend the school. So I think they have a good principal right now, and with some leadership and more resources there, they could make that a real good school. And I would love to see it as a STEM and art school together, not a separate school, but together.
Thank you, Ms. White. And I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you have.
I'm pretty much, although I'm off tomorrow, I know it's 7:02. I just want to make sure that people sort of understand. I see a
Yes, ma'am.
question.
And to that point, I just wanted to relay a couple more questions.
Okay.
Asks about maintenance for John Marshall.
Okay, the maintenance for John Marshall, I'm not quite sure about what that is going on with that. I know there's some bricks coming down in the back of the building. I think it was actually given to the maintenance, Mr. Hathaway, to actually look into, because that is deferred maintenance. So we're waiting to hear something about that. I know that the school board rep for that area, she did bring it to the attention of everyone. I'm sorry, y'all, it is my phone. She did bring it to the attention of the board about the pictures that surface of John Marshall in the rear of the building. You might can't see it if you drive by, but there are a lot of bricks that are out of, that has fallen from that building, and it is cracked at the top also.
Okay. And we do have a quick question about whether the roof at Fox Elementary has been tarped, and in terms of that stabilization process, do you know exactly what the next step is there? I know you spoke to what Superintendent Camera shared today in terms of the paperwork with the city.
Well, I'm not sure. There's some I guess mixed communication about the tarp. No, the building hasn't been tarped yet. They're trying to stabilize it. I think the fire department is thinking that well, it don't need to be tarped at this moment because it is a lot of water in there, and it needs to be actually, before it's stabilized, it needs to be actually looked at again to make sure that what can be stabilized. So that's why it's not tarped at this moment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. White. And rapid fire, we have a follow-up question from Jennifer regarding the chief wellness officer and school board's decision there.
Okay, Jennifer, that is one that I'm going to speak on it, but I cannot actually give you the whole the whole information about this, because this is personnel. And the only thing I'm going to say is that there were some certain criteria, or should I say a license, that everyone should have when you are in that type of position. But I can't actually bring everything out to you tonight. I'm sorry.
And Ms. White, do you mind if I drop your RVA school's email in the chat for folks if they have follow-up questions as well?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
And I thank all of you tonight. And I will be going off to the Fox meeting is right now. And if you're a Fox parent, you know there's a town hall that just started 5 minutes ago.
All
Thank
right,
you and have a good night.
Ms. White, thank you. And I'll see you over there in a little bit, and I'll see you in person tomorrow. We're dropping
Yes,
off breakfast.
And yes, tomorrow we will be doing Carver Elementary breakfast. Me and Catherine Jordan will be providing breakfast for Carver Elementary teachers, as well as the RAS Richmond Alternative staff. We'll do both of them tomorrow morning. I'll see you.
Okay, I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Okay, and I will stay on a bit longer. I'm sorry, it's been a wild time, I know, for everybody, and the Fox community has really rallied around that school. I would say one of the silver linings of that really terrible tragedy is it is helping highlight and bring more attention to RPS in general, and especially the maintenance issues that all the schools have, certainly not just Fox. So when you think about what you're doing for Fox, please also think about our larger RPS community and consider adopting another school, or, you know, helping out. There's many needs across the city. But we have an agenda to hop back to, and we still have some pretty meaty items on it. So Sven, what do you think? CRB, I believe, is next.
Yes.
And
so what we might do here, just because of the, you know, we do apologize. There's never a perfect day with everything that's going on.
yeah.
The conflict with the Fox meeting this evening, but some of the items that we had on the agenda included the mayor's proposal around the civilian review board for RPD, the council redistricting process, and then also Councilor Jordan's initiative on ranked choice voting for council elections. So what we'll do is I've allowed everybody to unmute themselves, given that we are now at a point in the program where we should not have any Zoom bombers with us anymore. So if you have questions or comments on any of those three, please do, you know, make your voice heard now. And if you want more information, I'm happy to provide a little bit of more context for where we are in those processes as well.
Yeah, and just the quick update, I would say, on the Citizen Review Board, there was the community task force that put together recommendations. The mayor then, you know, hired a consultant to do a recommendation. And the city council now is trying to compare those, listen to everything that we've heard so far from the community, and then also dig deeper into what actually is going on in internal affairs in general, to understand, like, what is the process that's supposed to be working before we create this separate outside system. But I see a question from Jerome.
It's not about, it's more so about redistricting. Have the plans been settled yet as to the map?
They have not. It's a great question. So the short answer to that, Jerome, and for everybody listening who have been following this and know that the second district has been and will be significantly impacted in the redistricting process, the final draft plan that council submitted for public comment is available online. I'm going to put that link in the chat for everybody, and that is open for public comment until April 8th, at which point public comment closes, and there will be a meeting to discuss the public comment vis-a-vis the draft map on the 11th, in conjunction with our regularly scheduled council meeting that evening. So there is still more opportunity to weigh in on that. And again, I will drop that link in the chat in a moment. And Jerome, thank you, because I know that you were very involved in ensuring that the Carver community was well represented in the process. One of the conversations early on in redistricting was whether Carver would be split both between 2 precincts and 2 council districts. In the final draft map that is up for public comment, Carver is retained entirely within the 2nd district. However, a new precinct is fashioned out of the western end of Carver to accommodate the lines that the state adopted for House of Delegates districts. I'm happy to get into that more if folks have questions. And I will also drop separately a link in a moment here that is the redistricting hub and the main landing page on the city's website for all things redistricting if you want to catch up on that process to date. Does anybody have any other questions in that space, or frankly, questions on anything that we can address? And can I just say, we're all looking forward to getting back to in person for these meetings, which hopefully we can do shortly here in the next couple of months.
Yes, and I do think we, this meeting was at the end of March. Let's try and have our April meeting at the beginning of April. And then we can really get into the budget while there's still time to get feedback, as well as, go more into the Civilian Review Board and ranked choice voting and redistricting, because the redistricting will be wrapping up. But I really appreciate everyone being here. I'm sorry this meeting was not as smooth as sometimes we're able to pull off because of the rescheduling and just sort of the headaches that were created by this tornado watch and the 7 o'clock Fox meeting. But we do value everyone sharing their time with us this evening. Please reach out afterwards. And Ansley, do you have a question?
I do, Catherine.
Sure.
Can you clarify, because having spoken at many council budget public hearing, is there a reason that it's being put off until the beginning of May when the vote needs to take place a week or 2 later?
Are you talking about
why?
the school board budget is being put off, or
No.
the city budget?
No, the city budget.
Well, I've only been through 1 budget cycle so far. I mean, I've definitely been down to watch. I don't see this one as unfolding slower than usual. There's always the back and forth between when the mayor releases his budget, city council gets to react to it. We get to react to your feedback from the mayor's budget, and then we try and get consensus around something. But did you see a difference in the timeline on the budget?
So I seem to recall something from Mr. Skinner that had indicated there would be an earlier public hearing, maybe even 2 public hearings, I think 1 in mid-April, which to me is a little more conducive for you all to really not just hear the comments, but actually potentially make some decisions, whereas when the public hearing is in, the beginning of May and the budget's due by the end of that same month, in my experience speaking at public hearings, if you don't give ample time for digestion of the comment and to process, all of the people who come out to, share their concerns, it kind of, for lack of a better phrase, does an injustice to the public hearing itself, if that makes any sense.
So Ainsley, thanks for that feedback. I have dropped the entire council deliberation schedule on the budget into the chat for everybody's benefit. And to clarify, the first public hearing on the budget will actually be at our next full council meeting on April the 11th. So that'll be the first opportunity for folks to weigh in on the mayor's proposal and on amendments offered by council.
So we do still have that one, because I thought I saw an updated schedule, and maybe I just misread it from Mr. Skinner, where there was just going to be the one hearing the beginning of May.
It's been a moving target, so I don't blame you. There's been a lot of information coming out of council. But that is the target date as of now, and that is as of the latest budget update from yesterday. And I'm happy to send you that release separately as well.
Oh, thank you, Sven. That'd be great. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Catherine.
Yeah, of course. I gotta say, Ainsley, you get extra credit points for paying attention to city council press releases, and that is going above and beyond. Do folks have any other follow-up questions on next steps on the budget? Or if I don't know that we covered the next steps with the Civilian Review Board review, that was continued at GovOps and will be reconsidered in late April. And so council is working on those proposed amendments to the mayor's proposal over the next couple of weeks.
I think, yeah, and I think this might be a good pause. We're at 7:15 and appreciate everyone spending their time tonight. We will have another district meeting here kind of, more soon, because we've got some big items, ahead of us. And then please do, as you're able to, participate in the council and committee meetings, and we will continue to share out those schedules. And they're all recorded. They're really easy to go back and view later. If that's your thing, which it was my thing, which is why I'm not here. But there's a lot of information in there. So, and of course, if you don't already get our newsletter, please sign up for that. Thank you everyone for joining us. Good night.
Thanks all.